So I'm Nathan Ware. I'm with Rain Networks. I appreciate everybody joining us today for another one of our Lunch and Learn pizza webinars that we have become famous for here at Rain Networks. Today we're going to be talking about the Macrium software that we've spoken to a lot of you about. A lot of you are kind of new Macrium partners, and so we wanted to have a webinar to kind of give you guys some background on Macrium, some information about the products, kind of where things are going with the reseller program. They have an absolutely thriving reseller program right now, so you guys are all kind of coming into this at the right time. So this will be a very, very cool call, I think, for a lot of you that are, because some of you are kind of just getting started in the program. So with us today is Peter Foley. Peter is the North American Channel Manager for Macrium. And you'll get a chance to talk here with Peter today. He'll walk you through a lot of the information that we're going to go through. Quick little webinar details here. First of all, as I mentioned earlier, try to keep your phones on mute just so we have a clean audio channel. For question and answer stuff, if you can, use the chat utility in the GoToMeeting. We'll make sure and get to all of your questions throughout the webinar. And we want to say thank you to Macrium, because a lot of you kind of took advantage of the free lunch option for the first few people that signed up. So thank you to Macrium for sponsoring the webinar and making that happen. I hope everybody is enjoying their lunches. And I think that's what we need to talk about to just kind of get the table set here for Peter. So Peter, I'm going to let you take it from here.
Cool. Thanks, Nathan. Yeah. Hi, guys. Thank you for joining us today. I won't take too long jumping in. We'll just go ahead and just jump into what we've got. Nathan already kind of said I'm the U.S. Channel Manager here for Macrium. Got a background in distribution. I work with a lot of resellers. I've been doing that for a while. And now Macrium is kind of my baby. So it's my job to take care of you guys. So anyway, this is a great introduction. So let's go ahead and get started, and I'll make sure y'all can see my screen here. All right. Okay, and if anyone needs to stop, we have a chat window there for you to, if you ask any questions, Nathan's going to help me monitor that, and we'll get going. So really just going to start with a quick background on Macrium Software and who we are. Then we'll go into the products, our features, why we think we're such a good product, and open it up to questions. So, you know, Macrium's been around for a while. We started in 2006. Our CEO actually had a computer failure with a backup of a different software and lost all of his wedding photos. So he decided he could do it better back in 2006. And today now he's got over 2,000 active resellers globally. We've got a support team of over 25 people based in the UK, and then my team here in the US, and we're based out of Denver. So, you know, we've got a handful of products. I just went ahead and just listed those there. We do both backup and imaging. Now, I know we have a lot of people here who have various backgrounds in the backup space, and you know, if anyone has those questions, I'm happy to go over those after the presentation or during the Q&A. But so generally, the way those products work, we've got the standalone products that just work on just PCs and servers. We have another product that does Exchange and SQL. So the way our product works is you install it on a machine, you tell it when to back it up, and almost like a set it, forget it. So we've got a couple options regarding the types of backups you can do. For me, I have mine run every morning to take kind of a backup of everything that's changed since the last workday, and it's fast. It doesn't have any impact on the performance of my machine, and then I'm good to go on my backups. So we have our standalone products, and we also have a product that manages entire networks for backups. So instead of having to go to machine to machine to do your backups and your management, you can actually go in and push the installs and manage and monitor all of your backups from one console. This is the kind of the focus of our marketing push now. This has been kind of our most popular product so far for 2018. I'll give you a little demo of that. We also have imaging products. which are used for technicians in a lab environment to, save a hard drive if it's making funny noises, that kind of thing, move to from a mechanical to an SSD. And also we have the deployment kit, which is used for in cases where someone's buying, let's say over 100 machines and they have their gold image, standard image they want to put on those machines. We give them a copy of the deployment kit. Both of those actually are kind of cool because it lets them run Macrium off of a USB stick, which saves quite a bit of time when they're taking their images. If you've been in the backup space for a while, you're probably familiar with some of our competitors. Acronis is kind of the one that we, I think if you did a side-by-side, people would compare us primarily to Acronis. Veeam, we have a virtual machine product that competes directly with Veeam, and our imaging products are kind of taking the place of the gap that Semantic Ghost has kind of left behind with some of the changes they've made. List StorageCraft there, also we're very confident in some of our offerings there regarding us versus their product. So anyway, then we can go into more details on those when you have some time. Price range, we kind of run the gamut from free all the way up to, I listed there, 30,000. We're, like I said earlier with our site manager, we're moving into environments instead of 1 or 2 workstations, a couple servers, environments now that have, multiple 100, 200 licenses that we need to, that they want to be backing up into different repositories. Our free product has limited features. And it's generally used for lead generation. If you were to YouTube Macrium, you'd see a ton of people that were selling our product for us. And a lot of the times the people that come in, even on the larger deals we make, have downloaded copies of the free edition. So, and then of course that steps up into our backup products that are 75, and then all the way up to the imaging products that go to 3,000, then into the bundles, which we've already discussed. Key features of Macrium that make us special is the Image Guardian, which I'll tell you about in a little bit. We're able to do basically things very, very quickly on both the cloning side and the restore side. And you mentioned that I have that bullet there for change block tracking, but basically that's another trick we have for doing things very quickly. That last bullet for Macrium redeployment is one of the kind of an important feature. One reason people use us is, of course, if you had a machine fail, you could move from, let's say, your HP to a Dell. There's no real problem there. We can handle all of the driver changes that you would have. So to go into a little more detail on our Image Guardian, this came out with Reflect version 7.1. This protects your Macrium images against ransomware by preventing any other third-party software from writing to that image. So effectively, it just only lets Macrium write to that image and denies write access to anything else. Again, it's got a small imprint, so all of the features basically of Macrium really don't have much impact on PC performance. As I said earlier, for me personally, I'm running Macrium on my machine during the workday, and I've never had any problems. The other feature that we're beginning to show off quite a bit is our VI boot. What VI boot does is it allows you to boot your Macrium image into a Hyper-V virtual machine. So if you had a client, let's say it was a CPA during tax season go down, instead of having to stop their work and wait for you to do a restore, a VI boot would enable you to boot up their environment into a virtual machine and work as they would earlier before, and give them some more time until you can do the restore. I went ahead and I posted a quick video of an example of running VI boot so you can see it real quick. It's just a minute. I'll go ahead and play that for you guys to watch. So here, they're going to go ahead and open Macrium Reflect. And inside of Macrium, you have the option to boot the image. So here he's going to go ahead and move over to, let's see here, boot image. Oop. Looks like we had a stop there. So as you can see there in Macrium, he's actually selected the image he needs to boot. I'll go ahead and boot that into the Hyper-V environment. And there you go. Like magic, you're able to go ahead and boot up into that environment and get back to business as quickly as possible. Let's go ahead and change that back. The other key feature that we've mentioned earlier is our site manager, which is the way that you can manage your entire network and install the software across just from a single console. I'll go ahead and just show that off real quick. So this sandbox here is an environment in Manchester. They have a port open for me to remotely log in and manage this one site. So we'll go ahead and log in. And the convenient thing about the site manager, of course, is it gives you just a broad picture of everything that's going on inside of that network. So you can go on and add all of your, hold on one second. You can go ahead and add all of the machines on that network and in the setup. But here, actually, hold on, I jumped in, I skipped the dashboard for you. Let's show that off first. So the dashboard is the one spot that gives you all of the widgets that you would need to see on just a quick overview. As you can see all the machines that are being managed. You can take a look and see which ones are currently running, which ones aren't protected, and then you can add the other widgets that you prefer to see. So we have them all here on the side based on some of the user requests. And again, you can just drop and drag it in there and take a look at what's going on with your backup instance. So this is helpful for people who are managing networks for other companies and also for IT managers with larger environments. One reason our sales range has gone from 75 to 30, of course, is this has equipped our end users to manage much larger environments. Because all they would have to do a multiple install is simply add the machines that they want to put in Macrium, install Macrium onto, and then push the agents and set the definitions. I'll go ahead and do a quick example. So here we've selected the machines that we want to install Macrium on. We've already got two on there. We'll go ahead and just hit install agent, and that's going to go ahead and take the Macrium licenses we have as part of the bundle and install them onto the machine. Go ahead and hit a quick refresh so we can keep moving. And then in the console, we can set up the type of backup we want to do and when we want it to run. So I'll go ahead and show you how easy that is.
Hey, Peter, this may be a good spot to address a question or two that's popped in. Mike has asked, is Site Manager restricted to Windows?
Is Site Manager restricted to Windows? No. So the nice thing about Site Manager is that can be run within a console. Macrium is a Windows-only based solution, but if your IT manager preferred to work off of a Windows machine, they'd be able to do their Site Manager from Windows. This is all browser-based.
So you have to install the Site Manager management on a Windows machine, but you could access it from any kind of machine. Like you could be on a Mac and access it in Safari because it's browser-based.
Correct. Actually, correction on that one. They would be able to do what I just did inside of the Site Manager to take a look at it. Site Manager would need to be installed on a machine inside of the network in a Windows machine, because the way the agents work, they have to communicate to Site Manager to be running. So as far as managing a network, you'd want that inside of inside of a Windows machine managing that network. But if someone wanted to manage the console and monitor all their backups, they could do that from any web browser.
Okay. And then we have somebody that's asked, does Site Manager need to be installed on a server, and what are the system requirements? So the answer to that is you don't have to load Site Manager on a server. It could run like on a Windows 7 box or something to that effect. And in terms of system requirements, it does not require like a super powerful machine or anything like that. I'll post up the system requirements into the chat window momentarily, but it's they're very light.
That's right. That's right. Thanks, Nathan.
Yep.
All right. So as you can see here in the definitions, excuse me here, we've got basically setting it all up. You can set the definition as the type of which machines you want to be backing up and the type of backup. So if you've got much experience in the backup world, we do the incrementals, we do differentials, and we do we do full backups. So hold on, I'm having a hard time seeing the full screen there. So we can choose the disks that we want to back up. As you can see here, based on the rules, we can choose partitions. We can choose ones that have specific drive letters, names. Macrium gives you a whole bunch of options there. I went ahead and just chose all disks. Hold on one second. You can clearly see I've got my alerts not off. 1 second here. Okay. So in this one, we'll go ahead and just say we want to do all disks. Click Next. Then we get to choose the options as far as compression and encryption. We can name that however we want. So this is just be the demo definition, because in the Site Manager you can have multiple definitions running. And then we can click Finish. I see here that Mike, you asked a question about Site Manager for Synology. We do have basically the way a Synology box we would set it up as a NAS drive. You can choose anywhere you want as the repository, and I'll show you that here in just a second. And then of course, when you're getting it all set up, you can set up the schedules here inside a Site Manager. So again, we have a couple schedules already set up. We have our incrementals forever, differential backups. But if we want to do a different schedule, you can set one up here just by clicking New and choose your triggers, which again would be, when, move that up here. When you want it to start, what type you want to back up, and what time. So if you want to have it after hours, you could just set the time to later in the day. Excuse me here. And we're going to go ahead and skip ahead, and I'll show you how once you've made your definition, how you can get those things finally running. So then we end, of course, on where we want those backups to go. And that's based on the repository. Back to the NAS question, basically you can back up, you can put your images on anything you can map a drive to. So we'll go ahead and just click on the new repository option, and it'll pop up which drives we want to back up to. So for a NAS, you can just select that and click Next, and it'll ask you for the username and of course the network share path. We do have cloud integration now with AWS. We have end users who are starting to use that. So basically all you would do is you would set up the storage gateway, and then in the next field you'll put in your login credentials and take care of it that way. So the way Macrium Site Manager sees that the AWS is basically just as another drive, and it'll back up there as you schedule it.
We do have a couple of questions in here as well, Peter, where people have asked about the cloud option.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And so this might be a good time to kind of address that in terms of using like an AWS account for a storage repository.
Sure. So, with Macrium, we don't do our own hosting for cloud. We're currently working on integrating the other options. So right now we do AWS. The next one on the map is Azure, and then we've got a couple others that are coming down the pipeline. So as I said earlier, with our AWS integration, it would be set up as a storage gateway, and we've got a link in our knowledge base that gives the instructions on how to set up the storage gateway. But when it's all done, Macrium actually sees it as just as it would any other a NAS drive or a drive on a server. So then after that's all set up, you can put you would put the credentials in to set it up as a repository. So I don't have one here set up, but it's fairly easy. As you can see here, you put your keys in, your credentials, and then it would be just as if you had selected the drive. I see here another question about Linux and Mac clients. So as long as we can see the drive, we can back up to it. The only feature you're going to lose when you're backing up to a third party, a different OS drive, is the image guardian, because Macrium needs to be running on the machine in order to protect those images. So it's just something to be aware of when you're configuring a network and selecting the repository that you want to be storing your images to. I see, William, you had a question about. Oh, go ahead.
Yeah, you were going right there where I was going. Go ahead.
Okay, sure. So William, you asked a question about compression for cloud backup options. So that would be done in the schedules where you select the level of compression you want. I can go ahead and just show you that real quick. When you do the definition, you can select if you want high compression or low compression. But that would be done here inside a site manager, and that'll be again in the definition side, where you would choose the level of compression that you want. Let's see if I can show you that real quick. Yeah, here in the definition, you can see I set this one to medium, but we could set that to high if we really wanted. All right, checking if there's any other questions. Go ahead.
You might have noticed that Mike is asking if we can image Linux and Mac machines.
Okay, so we can't do Macs. We can do some Linux machines. It has to do with the way the file systems are set up. In fact, I'm selling some technicians licenses to an organization that has both PCs and Linux. They had to do. I encourage them, and I would encourage anyone to do of course, a test for their specific needs. But Macrium can do the bare metal image of that partition if it's running Linux, and it can do the restore as long as it's got a compatible file system, which I think we can get inside the knowledge base, but I can also double check here at the end of the meeting and get back to you. But the answer is yes. In a lot of cases, we can do the imaging on Linux, but that would have to be done manually and within the Macrium software, either running in Windows or in the PE Rescue environment. All right. Let's see if it'll let me hop back into that browser here.
Okay, I want you to scroll down and do. Yeah, there you go.
So one nice thing too about Site Manager is you can actually do the restore from the console too. So if someone had a failure, of course you could, whoops, looks like we had an issue there. Let's see if we can just stop it. Reload it one more time. Yeah, so as I mentioned, you can do the restores here remotely. You simply would just select the machine and then the image that you wanted to image it to. So as you can see here, we've got the list of images. The most recent image was taken this morning as an incremental, and we can just take that and send it on to the machine. So here we're going to get an alert that it's going to start the process, and here we go. So as you can see down here, we've got all the logs that it takes. You can verify your images. These are just a few of the other tasks. And then a convenient thing, of course, in the Site Manager is managing your licenses. So, you know, I mentioned earlier we sell our bundle licenses and we sell our standalone licenses. Both are compatible within Site Manager, which is a free download, and then they can be managed here. So as you can see here, it's counting the number of workstation licenses it has and the number of server licenses that are remaining. And if you wanted to come in here, you could just put in your new license key, and that'll be compatible with either a bundle, it'll keep track of that, or your standalone licenses. Macrium does do email alerts, so if you wanted to have your, something sent to you if there was a failure or just want to make sure it runs every morning, Macrium gives you that option here with SMTP. You can set the time you want to get your summary. You've got quite a bit of options there. We also do Slack alerts, and of course you can do your access restrictions to get inside of the Site Manager if you want to do remote connection. Down here you can see that we've got our remote management, which gives you an API key. So Macrium is in a soft release for Multi-Site Manager, which lets you manage multiple sites, site managers, across many networks. That's one thing people have been asking for. So while you can do site managers remote through a port, Multi-Site Manager is hosted up in Azure unless you manage all of your sites in one spot. So that's where the API key comes into play. So we'll go ahead and I'll show you Multi-Site, which again is in soft release. We have a handful of resellers that are currently using it, and if you're interested in playing with this, we can always get you a login. So here's our Multi-Site. I'm just going to show you what the dashboard looks like to manage across all of those networks. And it looks a lot like Site Manager, only conveniently it's just managing, a lot more computers at many more locations. So you come in and you have a dashboard, you have your widgets, and then of course you can manage the agents, and you can check the repositories. So once you have the Site Manager set up at the location, this will connect to that single Site Manager install. So that covers Site Manager and Multi-Site. The other thing I thought we could go through while I've got you all, of course, is our partner program. Macrium we've had a partner program for years. We're really emphasizing our channel now. When you join the program, we do offer our resellers free keys. We want you guys using the software yourself. We do 20% off of list. And of course, we have deal registrations for anything over 5%. I see Mike's got another question about auto rotation of backups to purge old backups. Mike, I can go ahead and show the standalone backup definition here in a second. Once I cover the partner program here. We do have a portal that covers all of the marketing resources. We've got logos, white papers, data sheets, all those things that you would need in one place, including our price lists and any other details that you need, you can manage there. One thing that we've just started, of course, is managing your trial leads. One thing that that is very effective in selling Macrium, of course, is getting it installed. And when you come into a location and discover that they're not doing any backups, it's almost a critical situation to get them doing backups regardless. So if you get them set up and make sure they understand the urgency, then you can use this business trial and it'll link up to you. Lead thing, I have not mentioned I have not mentioned how Macrium currently, we have over 100 leads that are downloaded a day that we're working on sharing with our resellers. So that's something, of course, we'd want to be chatting with you. So I'm going to go ahead and work for Gandalf. Stephen McPherson actually is our global sales director. So it looks like he's the one that did that download there. All right, so I'm going to jump back in and answer those questions on the product. So Mike, Macrium does do, regarding auto rotation, one of the options of Macrium is the synthetic full, which lets basically what it'll do, like for my instance, I let it run, I only care about 30 days worth of backups. So what I'll let it do is it'll run the 30 days and then enfold that oldest backup into the last full. So when you're doing that, you're able to continually run an incremental without having to take another full, which of course incrementals take a lot less time because all they're doing is taking the changes from the last time it ran. So my incremental this morning, which I hadn't run for a few weeks because I'm on an older laptop, took 6 minutes. That's one option. We also have an auto purge based off of how much space is left inside that machine. So if you wanted to say run until there's 5 gigs left and then start purging the old backups, that's an option. And Paul, you wanted to go over how to move and delete an image. To do that, of course, you would want to unlock Image Guardian inside of Macrium because you can't delete an image unless it's been unlocked. That's, of course, to protect the image from ransomware. I actually currently have mine unlocked, and you can here. I'll show you the image here. The oldest one, if I wanted to delete the image, I could simply just right-click and delete it. So, of course, that's why you want to have Image Guardian running. One thing I think maybe it would be a good idea also to show you guys is if you wanted to do file folder recovery. So I know a lot of people say they prefer to do file folder backup. Yeah, Mike, I'll jump on that here in just a second when I show you actually here, Mike, I'll go ahead and just show you that now. So Mike's asking a question about if there's an ability to ignore directories like temp files, page files, that kind of thing. If I may or may not be able to answer that question specifically, I may want to get a technician into that one. But when you set up a definition, you're able to tell it which partitions you want it to back up. If you wanted to, but because Macrium is an image-based solution, it's going to take everything based on that drive. And the benefit of that, of course, is if you had to do a full recovery, you'd have everything. So, we really encourage people to start that kind of from the go, because then if you had a drive go bad, you could take that image and just get going again. I know some people say they would prefer file folder recovery to simply just go and get that single file when they need it. The advantage of using Macrium, of course, is you're able to take a regularly scheduled backup of all of the changes, which means you're not going to miss a file if it's not inside of that particular folder, and then you can also then pull it out of the Macrium image. When you're doing incrementals, it's competitive on time versus file and folder. I'm going to go ahead and show you how Macrium could do a file folder recovery. So you see I just double-clicked on my Macrium image. It shows up all of the drive partitions that I am taking on my backup. So of course I'm not worried about my recovery drives, etc. I'm just worried about my C drive. So then it's going to let me mount that drive as an E drive. It's going to go ahead and mount it, and then I can explore it as I would any other folder inside of Macrium. So once it's mounted, I'll show you how we can explore that and then just pull a file right out. Looks like I chose a larger image. Let's see if we can do a smaller one.
While we're waiting for that, Peter, we have a question from Paul about where he can see his NFR keys. And so I think that would be best done through the partner portal, right? The NFR keys are usually listed there in the partner portal. That would be the right thing to tell Paul there. So, so Paul, if you don't have partner portal access, I will put a link here into the chat window where you can register for partner portal access. There's probably some of the folks on the call that don't have that, so let me throw that in here.
And if you look at the screen, I've got the partner portal up here. So yeah, you would do your request here through the portal. So as I'm logged in now, you would it says request your keys, and then you can go ahead and put them through there, and it has the instructions on how to.
I've put that link into the chat tool there, and so if you don't have a partner portal account, just click on the register option there, and that will get you registered, and you'll have that registration shortly. It'll send you an email or whatnot to verify your account.
Mm-hmm. And both of the keys, we give a copy of Workstation and then a copy of Server. We do have the Server Plus product that does Exchange and SQL files. If that's something you're using in-house and you want to play with, I'd be happy to help you out. But out the gate, we just start with Workstation and Server, which I think works for most people. We were waiting on the image to mount, which it happened here. So as you can see now, I've got a drive showing as letter E, and I'm able to take a look at it as we would anything in Explorer. So I could open up the users files, come in and drill down into any of my documents, and you can see I'm exploring Macrium as I'm exploring that image file, and I can do that to save any of my old files. So if I had something like on my desktop that I accidentally deleted or updated improperly, I'd be able to just copy and move that up into back into. See if we can go ahead and just copy that and move it into the new machine. Do we have any other questions?
Yep, so we had a question come in that's interesting. Mike asked if there's licensing needed for Site Manager. So the answer to that is, Mike, there's no licensing needed for Site Manager. Site Manager is essentially like a free product, and inside there you'll put your licenses for either the standalone workstation or server licenses, or if you decide to go the agent license route, which a lot of people do just because the cost breakdown for quantity licenses would make sense. But yeah, no licensing needed for Site Manager. Totally free product. You'll just add in your workstation and server licenses in there.
And Adam, you're asking about deduplication. And is that sorry, I'm trying to understand that. Could you clarify kind of the issue you'd have come up with duplication? To answer that as I understand it, with Macrium, people store files everywhere in dedupe. Macrium, again, it's an image, because it's an image backup. It does, it goes ahead and just takes an entire image of all the changes on the system. So if they had multiple files, it would be catching all of those files. But if you had to do a recovery, as you can see here, when you mount it, let's say that they had a file that they needed to catch that was from a couple weeks earlier, they could go back, like as you can see, I can go back a few days or a couple weeks and mount that image to pull that file out. Paul, let's see, Paul's got a question about getting access to his NFR keys. I don't know if you can take a look inside of your partner portal, but one thing I can show you while we have it, of course, is order history. But Paul, regarding keys, you can work with myself and Rain to get you any key information, order history, that kind of thing, if you need help with it. Macrium does have inside the partner portal, you can manage your order history. You would just pull up your this tab here, and click download orders, and it will give you a spreadsheet with all of your historical orders on them. Cool.
Yeah, and Paul, also, if you can maybe email me separately after the webinar here, we'll make sure and get those to you. I'm going to put in my email address here into the chat utility just so you can ping me afterwards, and we'll get that fixed up for you.
And if anyone had any, go ahead.
Yeah, I was going to say, we did have one question that came in very early that we weren't kind of able to get to because we were right in the middle of a couple of topics there. It was actually from Mike. He was asking about the VI boot, actually, and does the VI boot have to be within Hyper-V? Are there any other platforms supported like VirtualBox? So right now it's Hyper-V, right, because it's using the Hyper-V role within Windows, which is available not just in Windows Server, but within like Windows 10 and whatnot. So are there any plans, Peter, that you know of to add any other hypervisor technologies in there other than Hyper-V, or do you feel like VI boot will pretty much be Hyper-V only going forward?
I think for the time being, it's going to be VI boot's going to be Hyper-V.
Okay, that would make sense. Just to keep it simple, use the native stuff built into Windows there. So.
Yep. Our right now, the short-term priorities on our roadmap is multi-site for managing all of the site managers, and then cloud integrations, adding other options in there besides Amazon Web Services. And then next after that, of course, is multicasting images. Instead of doing deployment kit, which you're doing on a machine-by-machine basis, multicasting is going to be more closely simulate kind of the feature that people love about Semantic Ghost, the old copy of Semantic Ghost. We do have people that use Deployment Kit for deploying images across the network, which I can demo for other people. We could schedule that, but we want on the roadmap to make it a lot easier. So those are the priorities that we have right now. Glenn,
and then Glenn, yeah, go ahead. You saw that one. Go ahead.
Yeah, Glenn, I see you've got a question about booting from, let's see, a V-image. Yes, so if you wanted to do VI boot to boot from a different machine, if you had it, let's say I have, you can see in my backup hard drive, I've got several different backup images from the different computers that I've been working on, and those we could boot off of VI boot on any machine. Let's see. All right. Were there any other questions? I think that puts us...
Well, I thought what would kind of make sense here, Peter, is kind of go through some of the scenarios that some of the guys on the call are likely to run into. We've got a few different types of resellers on the call. So, like, for example, we've got some resellers on the call that we would probably categorize as service companies, kind of in the MSP type mold. So for those guys, I think Site Manager is really the tool that they would probably end up using the most, where they would have Site Manager running at, say, the client where they're doing service work. And then, like you mentioned, they can kind of tie that into Multi-Site Manager. So if they wanted to have, site managers running at their various client offices, that they could then tie that all together with Multi-Site Manager, kind of giving them that, to use the greatest cliche in the business right now, single pane of glass to view all of their clients from one spot. So I think that is definitely fits several people that are on the call. And then I think it was Mike that brought up that this is a great solution kind of in the SMB market. I believe that is definitely true, although it's not just for SMB. I mean, we have seen people purchasing Macrium down to like a single user business all the way up to, there's literally like military proposals out there with the Navy, the Army, whatnot, and they're looking at Macrium in very large quantities. So there's really kind of everything in between there. There seems to be a fit, but definitely, as Mike mentioned, it's an awesome play in the SMB market, and the price is very much right for the SMB folks, where maybe a solution like StorageCraft might be a little too rich for some people's blood. Macrium might fit their pricing model a little bit better. Peter, maybe that's something we could address
Mhm.
here, is just maybe the pricing options that are available to these guys as they're out there talking to clients. Maybe kind of go through some of the pricing options.
Sure. So I'm going to go ahead and just scan, just scroll right up and take a look at the pricing slide I've got here. Hold on one second, and we'll make that the, oh, looks like I lost it again. Bear with me, guys. So, basically, we do have if we have our workstation products that do laptops and PCs, and then we jump into the server products, which do, of course, the standard servers and then servers with SQL and Exchange instances running on them. And then we move into the site manager bundles, which do each of those. So the workstation products generally they come in at $75 a piece, and then we do a bulk discount starting at 10. The server products on a standard server we're looking at $300, but then with a SQL Exchange we jump up to $6. Our imaging products, which actually are very popular, of course, that do the, if we, like I'd mentioned, sit on the technician's license that you'd use, like it would be licensed to a technician and not a machine, and the ones that's used for pushing a gold or standardized image to, as many machines as someone wants. Those sit up at a little higher price point and get you up to $3,200. And then the agent bundles, of course, they're significantly cheaper because you're buying them in bulk. So we sell them basically in quantities and in increments of 10, and then they become the discounts get higher the further you go down the up in quantity. So as you can see, I went 600 to 30,000. A $30,000 sale in a bundle would be 1,000 PCs, but 10 PCs would be $600. So
And so, Peter, the difference between what describe a little bit of the scenario why somebody would buy standalone licenses versus those agent licenses. Like, what's the scenario where they would go one way or the other there?
Sure. So when you're buying a site manager bundle, the machines need to stay on the same network, and they need to have contact with the site manager to be running properly. So in an environment where someone's using, let's say they've got laptops in and out and the repository is offsite, maybe if you've got someone on a laptop that works from home and you want to make sure they have a backup there, then in that case, I would suggest installing standalone. Now, standalone will still work in Site Manager, and let's say they come in to work with that laptop and it boots up and it connects to Site Manager, it will run, but you get increased flexibility when you're doing standalone. So that's sometimes in a case where there's laptops, that's one question I will ask is how many laptops they're backing up and how often they're in and out of that network in the Site Manager side. Now, a lot of times, so one of the first questions I'll ask when someone is interested in Macrium, of course, is if it's a kind of a one-time backup that they're trying to take, how many machines they're doing, or if they're looking to do regularly scheduled backups, because that clarifies, of course, if they're doing imaging, or if they're doing, more accurate term, a backup, and then that'll split them into, of course, our imaging products for the deployment kit, or our standalone and Site Manager product. And then in that case, then I begin to ask how many machines are they backing up, and if they're all on the same network. So if we've got someone that's got multiple sites, we may need to set that up as separate bundles. We may need to do a mix of standalone and bundles, and of course, then we want to clarify what type of machines they're doing. If they're doing workstations, servers, or virtual machines. And I'm going to go ahead and pop back up into our product pages here. Whoop, I went the other way. That can show you kind of the different products that we have, of course. So we do the standalone does workstation servers, and we have a VM product. The VM product is priced very competitively because we know that a lot of times when someone's running VMs, they may have 10 VMs on a physical machine. In that case, sometimes people are interested in backing up the whole physical machine that has the VMs inside of it, or they want to back up those actual VMs. So the virtual machine bundle will give them a Macrium install, but it'll only install inside of the VM. The advantage of that, of course, is it's inexpensive and they're able to do a restore of that VM out the gate. Also, they're able to use VI boot if they needed to do it with that image versus having to mount an image that they've taken of that physical host and pull that VHD out and have to play with it. So it saves them a lot of time, and it's really worth the money to buy that VM bundle if they need it. You're able to install a standalone version inside of a VM. So that's always a question you need to ask. So a key question when you're working with servers, of course, is if it's a VM, if it's running SQL and Exchange to determine if it's Server Plus or not. And then you can determine, of course, what the right product is. Sometimes when people call in, I see we've got a question here.
So I did answer Glenn's pricing question, but we may want to go through, he had asked about, like restoring to dissimilar hardware. So maybe can you touch on that a little bit, Peter?
Yeah, so that's a paid feature called redeploy. And again, that's a kind of an important feature, I think, with any backup solution. So what redeploy allows you to do, of course, is take that image and put it onto new hardware. So what you would do is, of course, you would want to get the drivers for that machine, and then when you do the restore, it will give you the option to install those drivers with that image. Now, Macrium, I'm not able to do this on the demo, but and again, of course, I'd encourage anyone to do this, is to do a test restore. The way it works when you install Macrium, and really any other backup product, is you'd create a rescue media to boot that machine into. So if you have a drive that has no OS and it's not able to boot, you can plug that USB key that has a rescue. We use Windows PE. You would boot up. It's a lightweight version of Windows that has a full version of Reflect on it, and then you can you can select the restore options. So I know I've got my screen sharing still, so I'll just show you what Macrium looks like. But you can see there's the restore tab, and then you can choose the images that you want to. It would look just like this, but inside of a smaller Windows environment, and you can choose the image that you want to back up, and then of course what drive you want to back up to. So we can do a true bare metal restore. And Glenn, we've got a good section inside of our knowledge base that goes over how to do a redeploy. The other option, of course, is once you've done the imaging, you can have the machine go and download the drivers it needs. But sometimes, of course, it would be faster to have those drivers ahead of time in order to do that restore. So there's both options when you're in the restore environment. And Gene, I see you have a question about a scenario where resellers can get more than a 25% off of a deal. So if it was a larger deal. Now that would be something, of course, you'd want to, if you'd be working with Rain on, to see what you needed to close a deal. And in that instance, of course, we'd want to work with you and the customer to find out what they needed. But in the case, of course, with deal registration, just so everyone knows, there's once you hit $2,000 of retail price, you can register the deal. Of course, that will protect it to you, and then you get an additional 5% off. Another thing on our pricing to know about, of course, is our public sector education pricing. I know there's a lot of times there's if you're selling to a library or a government, sometimes they have that expectation, and we do offer that. So we have a special SKU for education and public sector that's 30% off of list.
Okay. Well,
any other questions, guys?
Looks like Paul just asked about non-profit pricing.
Sure.
That would be.
So that would be the same. That would be the same, Paul. The public sector and educational pricing is the same. So they would get nonprofits also get the 30% off the list.
Yep.
And then cool. It sounds like some of the questions are slowing down. If anyone has any questions, I know that you clearly have a connection with Rain. They've been doing a great job with the product knowledge and the follow through and our reseller support. Macrium's very, very pleased with our partnership right now. And so feel free to reach out to them. My contact information they can share as well. Again, like I said, my priority, of course, is to support both Rain and our resellers because I'm the U.S. channel manager. So again, if there's any other questions, I am happy to reach out. The phone number that I have actually rings my cell phone if there's any emergencies. Hopefully you wouldn't have one of those, but we do also have, of course, if it was a support issue, Macrium's building up their support team now. We currently have a guy in from Manchester who's doing the hiring of the team, but currently covering our U.S. needs at the moment.
Yep. Okay. All right. So we'll probably wrap up there. I'll just kind of tie things up with this. Get in touch with your Rain Networks account manager if you need anything. I mean, we can get you NFRs, trials. If you want to see an individualized demo of any of the products, we have test servers running here at the office where we can do that. Additionally, as we've done over the years with a lot of you, if you have one of your end users that needs to see the product and you don't have like your own demo environment to show them, you can use our demo environment and we can, basically use that to show your prospect, the Macrium software, how it works and everything. So we're happy to do demos for everybody. So thank you, Peter, for doing this. Thank you for Macrium for sponsoring the webinar. We went a little long today. We had a lot of questions, so appreciate you joining. And guys, thank you for taking all the time that you took today to be on our webinar. We'll make sure and do this again soon. Thanks, Peter.
Great. Thanks, guys.
All right. Everybody have a great day, and bye-bye.